the stuff for you, Daniel.
Can you guys still see me? All right, I'm gonna try. Whenever Wayne goes. Okay, I think I can do it.
I'll check off the list for you, Daniel. Because I know keep it in the phone. You can't really do it.
Yeah, I love doing that stuff. I feel so naked right now.
Oh, you're kind of sideways.
Really? So I have.
Oh, there you go. No. There you go. You're making me freaking dizzy, boy.
What about now?
Sideways.
What about now? Still?
That's better.
Okay,
But
so I can't look at the chat.
Oh, good, Nick. I don't know why I'm dizzy. It doesn't help that I have.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Noted DX, your walking, talking flavor review show. I am Sam, and join me in welcoming my cabal of co-hosts, Daniel and Tim.
Hey. Hello.
We are unfortunately missing Linda again this week. Thoughts and prayers to her. She's okay, but dealing with some personal stuff. So she gets the night off. We're giving her the night off for this.
I almost took the night off.
We're not
Almost
just
had
giving.
to.
She's also just taking the night off because she needs to, but
Yeah.
also like
Yep.
she deserves the night off. So that's what I'm saying. But welcome everybody in the chat. God, it's hot here. How are you guys holding up?
I've got heat pumps
You have
freshly
AC.
installed. Yeah.
It's hot. It's a long day. But at least we have some decent flavors, you know?
Western Washington doesn't know the meaning of AC.
See? Man, I hate not seeing chat.
Nobody's saying nothing. NorCal. Anyways,
They're all talking shit about you, Daniel, but it's okay.
You know what? I will leave
over.
this stream. I will leave. All I have to do is just stop the video, and then I'll be right back.
And you can take it with you into the bathroom if you need to.
He just did. What do you think he's streaming from? He didn't disclose his location.
He's shitting. He's taking a shit.
He's in McDonald's bathroom, guys.
All right, come back. Oh, he really has to. He is leaving to go poop right now. Oh, there.
No
No.
idea.
I have.
Oh, what a
McDonald's,
day
not
to
Taco
start
Bell.
off.
Ew, NorCal. That sounds horrific. 107. Yeah, if you're in
What I'm talking
NorCal,
about.
you have AC. We don't.
Yo, our feels like got up to I think 106 today, but it was like 95, but the heat index was like 104, 105. I'm like, come on.
Ours was at like 85, which is hot for here. We're not used to that, but it's not that bad. I wouldn't be able to survive in places where it's that bad.
Oh yeah, no,
Ugh,
it's not that
all right.
bad because we
Well,
all work inside.
yeah, it's my kitchen that I work in 5 days a week doesn't have AC either.
Yeah, kitchens suck.
Denny's does. They have AC. That's nice, but that's 3 days a week. So the other one, it's like if you take out the thermometer and it's just reading like 98 degrees in the kitchen, just in the air, and you're like, ah, it's not even like over the stove or anything or the fryer.
I know, right?
With the salamander on, it's just, oh God. So anyways, we got some bourbon whiskey flavors. Not all of them. We got quite a few to go over tonight, though. Daniel's got a good list. Probably won't hear from Linda in chat with hers, but we'll get some of her notes probably in Reddit. So also don't forget to check out the Reddit. I'll just remind everybody to do that. That's where you go. Drop your comments on there. We'll get your commenter of the week picked at the end of the episode. And I'll have to read all the good fun info at the top of the thread. Some things have changed, so make sure you pay attention to that.
Can you post those bit.lys for me?
Oh yeah, I
please?
don't fucking.
I'm sorry. If you
No,
search,
it's okay.
it'll come up.
Wayne, we need you to do something.
What? What are you making Wayne do stuff for?
Or Tim, I can't do it.
What? Do what?
Post the Reddit link, but safely.
I can do it, but I'll just have to leave.
Daniel's
for a second.
just
Not
like
leave.
indisposed. We'll
Let's
get to
stop
it.
the video.
Check out our Discord if you want to see it. That's where it gets posted also. Or go to Reddit if you follow it already. Yeah. Hopefully you do. We'll do that later. But I guess getting on into it. Oh shoot.
Probably should describe what whiskey is.
So
Bourbon is.
whiskey. Yeah, let's first of all, let's explain what whiskey is as an alcoholic spirit.
Alcoholic spirit, like
Alcoholic spirit.
inspirational spirit.
Perfect.
As a
It just
spirit.
sounded weird for you
So
saying
whiskey is just a spirit made from grain mash. Is pretty much what it is. So it's barley, corn, rye, wheat, you get your different variations. And then bourbon has to be made with what? 51% corn, has to be aged in charred oak barrels for a certain amount of time, I believe, right?
that.
And then it can be American or Kentucky or straight Kentucky bourbon. Getting into the differences between like rye, then you got rye where the other 49% is mostly rye. It's corn and rye. And corn is usually the main, I think, grain in whiskeys. And then the wheat and stuff, wheated whiskeys isn't, a mix or whatever kind of on the other half of the mix of the mash can get changed up and you get your different variations. And then bottled and bond means it has to be made under a certain amount of specific specifications and it's more likely to be the same every time. And then you got barrel strength and all that sort of stuff that kind of just changes slight nuances in your bourbons and your whiskeys. And then obviously there's Scotch whiskey, there's American whiskey, there's Japanese whiskey, there's that meat or not meat, peat.
meat whiskey. What the?
I was thinking malt and
meat.
peat at the same time. that peaty thing that a lot of people get from Scotch whiskeys or Japanese whiskeys more so than American. So, anyways,
I think bourbon tastes the best out of
I'm
them.
a big fan of bourbon. Yes, I'll go for a straight
Bourbon.
Kentucky. Bottled and bond is a great way if you're trying out new shit because like Evan Williams, like their regular shit's not that good, but their bottle and bond is cheap and pretty decent. Yeah, all bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon. Rye whiskeys, I like some of those. It just really depends.
I like them all, man.
But yeah, I go straight bourbon because you get that charred oak barrel. That's where that I don't know if I haven't tried too many like straight whiskeys that aren't bourbons that have that like aged barrel, flavor to them.
Taste.
And then when something is like,
You got to give me a list because I can't even think of them all. But I've tried a lot, just working.
I like Buffalo Trace. I like Wild Turkey 101 is a good one.
Yeah.
I like, for cheap things too, obviously, because I'm not like somebody going out and getting like Woodford
I would
Reserve
say,
or whatever.
yeah,
like,
Woodford's my favorite. I would say,
um,
overall, out of all, I like Woodford the best, and Makers is pretty good.
Makers is good. Wild Turkey is probably my go-to, the 101.
Wild
And
Turkey
I can't.
is
Evan
really
Williams
good.
is a little bit harder. Not Evan Williams. That's everywhere. The bottle and bond one's good. I don't like
Wild
their regular
turkey. Oh, see,
bourbon.
like
The
I
Wild Turkey
even
101
think,
is good, cheap whiskey or bourbon.
I think
It's like 25
Jack
bucks a bottle.
Daniels,
It's not that cheap, but
like Jack Daniels, is a good starting point.
give me a
it is. They
gentleman
make some
Jack or
really
single
good stuff
barrel
too. Yeah,
Jack.
It's available.
Yeah.
It's not too expensive. You can get it in a variety of sizes. It's probably, in my opinion, one of the best to mix with Coke. So like, it's got a lot of going for it. And if you don't like Jack Daniels, you're pretty much not gonna like anything else because it's just kind of like very cliche and clutch. It's pretty darn good. Even though once you try hundreds of others, you forget it. It's like Tabasco sauce essentially. There's so many better hot sauce,
But
but
I was
nothing
like,
is
I really
Tabasco.
tried to get into it, and I did end up getting into it a little bit. But what I ended up realizing is that like the Wild Turkey 101, the Evan Williams bottle and bond, those 20
Wild
$25
Turkey's good.
bottles are fucking good enough. I don't need, and I did some Knob Creek 7 year rye and it was good, but I don't need to spend $35, $40 on a bottle.
Mhm.
just
No.
because because I tried doing the little sip. I got a little sipper glass to, and it's like it's just which one's more palatable for me and like goes down easier. But I'm also mixing sours a lot if I'm doing bourbon. I like bourbon and peach sours
Some
with some
whiskey
peach schnapps in
sours,
there.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Fucking
It's kind of like wine. Wine is kind of the same way because I've had some like really expensive. I don't really drink wine. I kind of hate it.
Yep.
But like to me, the difference between like a really good expensive wine and like a good solid like cheap bottle of wine is like, I mean, you're splitting hairs. Like a good cheap bottle of wine is good enough, and most people are gonna
Yes.
like it.
Yes.
And I'm talking
I
like
agree.
$15, $20.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
on
you
that.
can
Yeah.
probably like replace it, and in honesty, they wouldn't know the difference.
Like if you
Or-
have like a
and it-
Johnny Walker Black or whatever, Blue Label or whatever, and you try
Yeah,
like
and there's green or red label
Maker's
things,
Mark, you're
too.
really not gonna be able to, unless you're like super snobby about it. It's kind of tough to.
Buffalo Trace is really good. That's also a cheaper brand too. I really like Buffalo Trace. I just can't find it everywhere for some reason.
I will
But yeah,
say,
I agree
like,
with you on wines. And if you're kind of that picky, or if you're not somebody that can pick out the nuances of the wines, or like you probably want that blackberry Moscato from Safeway or Albertsons, anyways, like that with the extra sugar
Barefoot.
in it. And it's like
Nothing says I love you like a
9%
box of
alcohol,
wine.
not
Nothing says I love you like a box of wine.
I will say,
yeah, that Franzia Sunset Blush is good shit. I got hooked on the Sunset Blush for a while, but I like sweet dessert wines. But I'm not a dry wine unless it's a Moscato. I can do that. But even then, I got a bottle of some. I was like, this is a $4 bottle because I'm going to cook with it. I'm going to braise some beef with it, and I drank half the bottle. I was like, this stuff's fine. Like this is perfectly fine.
I think the best way, at least off the top of my head, thinking of all the cheaper whiskeys versus the better ones and bourbons, is the better ones seem to be thinner, if that makes sense, whereas the cheaper ones seem to have like a syrupiness added to it,
More of
or
a
like a
mouthfeel
thicker.
is what I guess you would call
Yeah,
it.
they're
Right?
a little more like they have more sugar added to it. It seems like
Yes.
there's a lot more to the process versus natural kind of uh I don't know how to explain it. There seems to be like syrup in like some
Well,
of
and
them.
also you have to pay it. Like, what's the proof is all over the place on a lot of. I mean, if you get an 80 proof whiskey, it's going to be a lot sweeter and syrupier than like when you get your 130 proof or 120 proof whiskey for sure. Like, and that one's gonna hit the back of your throat like fire does. So it's just whiskeys and bourbons, they kind of have a wide range of proofs, 92.3% or
As a
41.2.
side note, why haven't any company, I guess because it's illegal, made moonshine flavor?
There is.
Okay,
Like,
so what is
there is?
moonshine then? Isn't moonshine just distilled grains as well?
I mean, but you can make like there's the famous one
There's all kinds of
is the
moonshine.
cinnamon apple pie.
Right.
Why couldn't someone
Right.
make a famous cinnamon apple pie one? That would be
I
something
guess
that I
my
wouldn't
question would be
mind.
like,
Moonshine's
Cinnamon
made
apple
from a
pie
mash.
whiskey?
From a mash.
well, so is whiskey, a grain mash.
Mhm.
Yeah, grain mash. But I mean,
And
You-
grain, I mean, it's whiskey's a grain alcohol.
Is it moonshine just means homemade?
No,
I
isn't
think
it?
there's a specific
Well,
reasoning behind moonshine.
guess.
I'll look it up now.
Maybe it's like an alcohol percentage then.
it's supposed to
No,
be a
it's
certain.
not that because I'll look it up quick.
I love moonshine when I had it out
Bourbon
of
and
the
moonshine
country.
diverge significantly in their flavor profiles due to variations in ingredients, aging, distillation, and techniques.
It's the same for whiskey. I mean,
Bourbon has strict production guidelines, offers a wide
Yeah.
range of flavors, like rye, barley.
Yeah, bourbon
yeast,
is
but
like
yeah, like you said, it's
regulated.
grain, whereas moonshine can
and then
contain
it has
fruits.
to be bourbon has to be in freshly charred oak barrels. You can't use leftover brandy barrels or something like
Yep.
some whiskeys so if you want the bourbon name, it has to be a fresh charred white oak barrel or whatever. Other whiskeys will get barrel aged, but it might be in an old brandy barrels, or not for as long as a bourbon needs to be in there or something like that. So I guess moonshine just has a higher ABV because it's just gonna. I guess it comes down to methods, and because then vodka.
It's a lot of doing the
I guess
methods.
that's not
Well,
grain,
moonshine's made out of distilled.
right?
Bourbon is
Mhm.
filtered. Bourbon's filtered.
You have to distill to get hard
Yeah,
alcohol.
but it's also filtered usually after
Whiskey, distilled beverage. I think here it just says the typical unifying characteristic of the different classes and types are the fermentation of grains, distillation, and aging in wooden barrels. But if like I do like whiskey,
I always thought it was just like because it's like homemade or unregulated. That's what I.
No.
unlike moonshine, which is ready to drink without maturing, whiskey is stored in barrels for months and sometimes years.
I'm pretty sure even whiskey is like regulated somewhat, in like how you produce it, right?
Mhm.
You can't call it whiskey unless it has like a specific
but you don't
percentage.
see a lot of like clear whiskeys, do you? Like they're all kind of aged at least a little. Like you don't have an añejo and a reposado and a
Yeah, it's not like
do a
Rome's or something.
tequilas.
Oh my god, a
or
clear
rums.
whiskey? That'd be crazy.
I mean, that's
That'd
what
be
it is when
scary.
it comes out the still, but then you have to age it and then you get your,
Well, that aging is where all the flavor is.
exactly. So moonshine is that flavorless.
Someone make a
off the-
clear
off
whiskey.
the still, like a clear rum or whatever, like age, you age it in barrels is going to get a change color. Anyways, we're 15 minutes in and we haven't talked about a single flavor yet.
I've been pointing that out.
I told Tim we're not going to tangent that much tonight.
Yeah, sure. First 15 minutes, I'm just sitting here. I thought this was
I
a
didn't realize
flavoring
how
one,
much I
but
could sit here and talk about whiskey with people. I haven't done that.
I'm not
So anyway,
surprised the way you were with butterbeer the other week. I'm not surprised.
let's get on into it. The first flavor of the week is Flavor West Fire Whiskey parentheses
All right, let me grab
Fireball.
that.
Daniel's the only one that has this.
Don't get it. It's it's basically what I get from it is like what is it? Mike and Ike's, but the cinnamon ones is kind
Red
of
Hots, yeah. That's what
yeah.
Fireball is, though.
No, but I get no liquor whatsoever from it.
You don't really
None
like Fireball either.
I I mean, yeah, I
It
guess
mostly
in that,
tastes like sweet, sticky, fucking
because
red
cinnamon.
you're
hot syrup,
dying.
Yeah,
cinnamon,
cinnamon.
and then it
Cinnamon.
burns your throat as it goes down. And
Yeah,
that's
it's
pretty much
terrible.
it.
It's
It's not good
terrible.
shit.
Unless you
mess-
mix it 50-50 with apple pucker, then it's delicious.
Okay.
I besides the tasting like Mike and Ike's, having no liquor, like even when I do fireballs, and it's been a long time, but when I did do it, I would still get some liquor out of it. It wouldn't just be pure fireball, but the burn, yeah, then it just straight fire. But this one is just pure Mike and Ike's. I get no liquor from it, and it kind of disperses quick, so the body's like just lacking. It's kind of just lingers on your tongue with the spice. Um, as well as it kind of gives me this weird kind of bitter note that's almost, I don't want to say like like vinegary-ish. I don't know how to explain it, but it's got this weird bitterness that doesn't mesh in there. Kind of like you put a little bit of apple cider vinegar into your fireball and then ate a Mike and Ike's or whatever they're called. But yeah, this one was really bad. I got this a long time ago and just threw it away, I think, or it's somewhere in a pit somewhere. But yeah, not much to say. I would highly recommend not to get this flavor, even on sale. But what's next?
So, just kind of
Oh,
shoot off on
God.
another quick little tangent. Flavora has red cinnamon, and it's kind of the same thing, but I don't think they're trying to make it like the Fireball. Obviously, I think it's more just trying to be that hot tamale red cinnamon.
Yeah, but that one's good though.
And that one's yes, and that's I just wanted to point that out. That one is another option if you really want to hit. Were Fireballs little? Aren't those little round candies?
Yeah, those
Little
little
round. No,
those
those are
Yeah,
red
the
hots.
little red hot
Hots.
round candies that are like the
those
Red
were
Hots are red hot.
atomics.
They're
Those
like
are atomics,
those are
I thought.
those are what?
Atomic
They're red
bombs.
hots.
I thought they
Oh.
were called atomics.
Red Hots, maybe.
It's been a
Red
while. I
hots are the
don't
little.
No, I think
little
you're right,
round.
'cause-
Little round ones are red hots.
Right. Okay. Well, anyways, so they're not called. There's not the candy isn't called Fireballs. They're just that's just the drink. Okay. For some reason,
They might have had like off brands because I remember seeing Fireball candies.
I thought Fireball whiskey was like
Atomic
the
Bomb
candy
candies.
plus but sorry, tangent. So yeah, Flavora red cinnamon's another good option if you want to actually, or is a good option. But moving on, we got Mullenberry JD whiskey, Jack Dan's.
So I did this one at 4%. I had this one for a while. It's pure top note and there's no base to it. and it's just the flavor of there's no kind of alcohol to it. It's just kind of like grainy, uh, with a little bit of like that whiskey kind of feel. But then it just dissipates really quick, and it doesn't taste like JD. I don't know if we should be saying Jack all day, but JD, it kind of tastes like an off-brand and like low shelf. I know we were talking, there's not too much of a difference, but this is kind of like dollar store whiskey, is what I imagine it being, like heavily discounted whiskey that's been sitting for a while with the jar kind of cracked open, so it kind of just diluted and lost a lot of its punch. This is like a whiskey that's on Slim Fast. You know what I mean? Like this one is dieting. Uh, at 4%, like I said, you get mostly top notes of the flavor of the whiskey. You get no burn, no alcohol sensation, and we'll talk about that because you don't think you'll get that sensation, but trust me, you can. And it just kind of feels like Jack Daniel's syrup. Uh, it also has kind of like a weird off note that I don't know how to explain. It's not like plastic. It just kind of, I would say, kind of swampy. Uh, Yeah, this one I would also, I mean, of course, it's non-existent, and MB had this famous way of just naming flavors stupid names, and then people buy it. And this is one of them. I know it's very simple, JD whiskey, but it's an eye catcher. But that's it with the name. I would not recommend this one. I mean, if you do want to kind of make a very sweet bourbon, this would be a good top note for it. But the fact that you need to use more than 4% to get more of a base, I'm assuming, and also it's hard to source and now gone. And I don't think SSA. I think SSA could do better, anyways. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend this one either. And
All right.
Linda, I don't have her notes, but she ranked it a little bit higher than me. But I think she was. I can't see the scores, but I
She gave
think
it a
hers
5. You gave
Five.
it a
She gave it a
3.
5.
Yeah.
five. So she
I
says,
think I gave it a.
eh.
I
So
think a
she gave it a
Probably.
3.
three. You gave it a 3.
Yeah, 3. That's where
Yeah.
I
So
would
she
rank
gave
it.
it like
Maybe
middle of
even
the
a
road,
2.
like usable kind of level. Yeah.
I would say
All
it's.
right.
I would. It's usable if you have it, but I wouldn't recommend getting it.
Okay, chat. You guys haven't atomic fireballs. Yes, the little red cinnamon jawbreakers is what I was talking about. So
Oh,
Oh,
okay. Then you okay? Not the real
so
small
they were
one, but the
atomics.
like, yeah,
They
the
were
small
I
atomics.
gumball
said I
size
was
ones.
right. They're all atomic fireballs. That's what they're. Yeah, I was right.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's what they're called.
Oh, we
Well,
were
when you
both
said
right.
tiny, it made you you made it look like
I was.
tiny,
I was doing
tiny.
like M&M shape. I'm sorry, but they're
Yeah,
not.
an
They're not
M&M
like this
shape would be
big.
about
No,
They're
no,
still
those.
small. They're
M&M are smaller is
small,
actually Red
small
Hots.
little jawbreakers that you can get with
no.
Halloween
They're
candy.
like
Yeah,
the
those are
root
yeah, those
beer.
are atomic fireballs,
They're about
and
the
you can
same
get them to
size of
various
a.
sizes actually.
Yeah,
The
the
root beer barrels are bigger because they're barrels and
no,
not.
they're about the same size.
Well,
If you rounded out the root
Oh,
beer
hot
barrels, it would
tamales.
be.
Moving
Those are
Anyways, we're
on.
good. CJ.
Tangentville.
Yeah, we're
What's
tangenting
next?
hard. Wonder Flavors Bourbon is next with an average
Yep.
score of 5.63.
I didn't know where to rank this. I off my head, it's like around a 4 or 5. Um, so I also did this one at 4, and it's the problem with the flavors that are just okay. I would say this one's okayish. Is there lack in the bottom notes in the body that I want? You know, like when I want a bourbon, a whiskey, or anything in this form, I want it to be very body centered, and then I want the spices to be kind of top note. But this is just all the bourbon spices, whatever you want to call it, top notes. I don't get any off notes with it. So that's why I didn't know where to rank it between 3 to 5. I think if you have this, it's very useful, but it's definitely an additive, another top note kind of thing. Ones that I gave the lower rankings, uh, were definitely because they had no body to them or not enough body. Uh, Maybe this one is more, at the 5 to 6 range, but I felt like I wasn't pushing it, or I felt like 4 was a solid point, and I got the gist of the flavor. Uh, but like I said, there's no off notes, so I think if you have this, there's nothing wrong with it. Also, it's super easy to source, so I think uh, this is a good flavor if you have it on sale kind of deal. I think
Mhm.
it can have its purposes, and I think probably a lot of people made good recipes with it. As a single flavor, it's pretty boring and just I don't want to say that, but I guess I have to. But I want bottom. I don't want no top. You know what I'm saying? Take it how you want that.
Okay. And
Save
more
that.
TMI.
Clip it. But yeah. Do you guys have these? How do we go, Tim?
We all have these. Yeah.
Okay.
Wonder Flavors bourbon. Yeah, it is definitely like the top accents, like the smoky sweetness, like on top, like the real subtle flavors, not the actual core flavor here. I find that a lot of these are part of a whole. And this is one of them. This works really well with some of the other whiskey flavors, but by itself, yeah, it's a little bit on the not so overwhelming side. It's underwhelming for a single like bourbon, but it mixes well with some of the other bourbons. I've had it with some of the others. It's excellent if it's used right. So it is a 6 for me as well. It didn't rank real high for me because it is an additive note, but it's a good additive note. So it is still there and it's a little better than like I'd call it above average because it does work well to give you that like sweet, subtle tones and nuances of a whiskey
Yeah, it's
for
pretty
me.
sweet.
Yeah, it's like almost it's more like almost a whiskey than a bourbon kind of vibe. It's like I get the sweeter notes to it.
I
So
think
yeah,
this
I actually like
one
that. I mixed mine at 3, but
three.
that's because I already knew it was an additive before I mixed it, so I didn't bother. I didn't knew it doesn't quite. I've tried pushing this up before in a mix before, and it doesn't quite do it by itself. It needs help. What about you, Sam?
Yeah, you guys nailed it. It's top heavy. It's also pretty light at 4%, kind of, but it's accenty light. No body. That kind of a bright sweetness to it that made me think like JD honey. It doesn't taste like honey, but I
Yeah,
was like, this might lean itself to that kind of a profile. It's not that smoky or charred, so I think you're right on where it's more of like a whiskey instead of a bourbon. I would want way more of that. I mean, there are flavors that can do that. Flavor Oak Barrel, Vape Train even has um, uh, I think there's this oak barrel
Yeah,
too.
this is one of my
Um,
favorite trifecta, and it does is a
yes, and
Jim Beam
which
mix.
is that
Yeah,
the trio? Odie told
not
us to
the not
talk
the
about
not
the
the original
original
trio that
trio.
Odie was talking about. It's Mandalorians.
There's a couple that we can go over here at the end of the episode. There's a couple trios and combos that personal favorites of mine as well that and Tim's and Daniel that we can go over. But yeah, you definitely want to pair this with something else with a lot more body.
More
Um,
oomph.
or I mean, sometimes you don't want body with your alcohol flavors because you're just trying to add the alcohol note to a root beer float or to some coconut and pineapple or whatever. And this might work in that instance. I haven't mixed with it a whole hell of a lot, but it is
I've
that kind
never
of
tried this with
lighter.
creams.
Yeah,
Might
might
work.
work.
that's what I
Some of
was
these, some
saying.
of these as single flavors are not very strong whiskeys, but when you mix with them,
See,
they
I
stand
think
out. So it's
I the reason why I didn't like harsh on this is I think this one would be the best for like a cream because it would play right on top of those creamy notes that are already light to begin with. And if you wanted to do like a cream, you don't want full on, you know, dense flavor. You kind of want just the nuances. And I think this one would be perfect with like an aged cream or some kind of weird dessert kind of deal. I think this one would play the best, especially that it's
oh,
very sweet compared to a lot of them or
yeah.
most of them.
It's
But yeah,
just, I mean, there's no off notes or nothing. It's just the only thing really wrong with it is that it's top heavy and it's
yeah.
soft. So I don't know if it's
It's all
a
those lighter
SC.
notes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's a super concentrated or not. I think Daniel's right. I think you
I
could.
think it is
I
an
don't
SC,
think,
isn't it?
yeah,
No?
4%. Like, I think you could try 5 or 6 in a mix, which kind of sucks. But depend. It's just
It's
going to
I
take
detailed.
some.
tried pushing it.
It's going to take some working around and trying to mix. Trying to
I
get it to
tried
work. I'm sure,
pushing
but
it, and I don't know how to work with a cream, but as just going for a whiskey flavor, it never changes.
it
Really,
doesn't
just
cap out. So it just kind
no.
of stays. Yeah. So
Yeah.
stick to 3 or 4%. Then it sounds like, and kind of just maybe build it out. And
Yep.
like I said, we'll get to these combos later, but So I guess then moving forward, the next flavor would be TFA regular bourbon, which I don't have. You guys do though.
Yep.
You have this one, Tim?
Yeah, I have
Oh,
this
we're
one
the
too.
only ones that have this.
Yeah.
I think Wayne has this one too.
If Wayne's
Well,
here.
I feel like he's talked on a live mixing about. Oh, there's maybe he didn't have it and he only had Kentucky. I
I
don't
think he
remember.
talked about Kentucky because I don't want to speak for him, but if I remember in his
Yeah.
videos, he I wouldn't say love, but he really likes Kentucky. I don't know if he still does.
Right. I just
Uh,
don't. I think there was a video where he was just like, "Oh, there's a regular bourbon," or he had it. I couldn't remember if he didn't know about it or didn't have it. He can chime in. We'll ask him at some point. But
so in my opinion, I wish I tried this flavor before Kentucky because it kind of ruined it. That's why I gave it a 6. It's not bad. I think if you got them both at the same time, you would be like, "Oh, cool." Uh, it's similar to the bourbon, but it's a completely different brand. I'm not elitist to know what brand. It's very good, but it's not as spicy. It still has the body similar to Kentucky. Uh, I think this one would make a good trio, like you guys were talking about. There is no off notes with it. It is just kind of, I don't get any specific, like, I don't know enough to decipher what brand it is, but it's some kind of brand of bourbon that I've had before. Uh, and it's delicious. It's got not as much sweetness as Kentucky, but it is good. The top notes are there. It's got the body, but it's just kind of boring. And the fact that I had Kentucky already, and it's one of my favorites of all time, uh, kind of ruined it and made me give it the 6. Because I honestly, there's probably nothing wrong with it. If you never tested or tasted Kentucky, I think you would be perfectly happy with this flavor. But it's just it made me want to keep like I put it down and just started. I finished my single flavor test for the Kentucky, but it just made me want to try that one more. So that's why I gave it a 6. It's kind of just your average, bourbon that you get on the shelf. Not an off-brand, but just one of the brands. It's just average. I think there's a lot better, and it's around top 8, top 10, I guess. Uh, but yeah, you liked it a little bit more than me, Tim.
Not
So
much
much
more.
more.
No,
So
so
much
much more.
more.
0.5%. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, this one here, it's really hard to not compare it directly with the Kentucky, and we haven't done Kentucky
you
yet.
got him.
I'm having the same
You got
exact
him.
problem. It's like a comparison. This is the watered. Okay, the kick for it is very similar to Kentucky, but this is the watered down, smooth version, like flat, boring cousin, brother, whatever of Kentucky. It's just that's the problem. If you got both available, why would you not go for the one that has more full flavor? This one doesn't. It's kind of mellow, mild, kind of whiskey flavor, and it doesn't really change. Raising it or lowering it, it doesn't really change that flavor. It's just kind of a flat bourbon flavor.
Oh yeah, what did you test this at? I didn't say I did mine
I
at
tested this one
3.5.
at 5.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
scared. It smelled
I
dense.
tested this at 8.
8?
Yes. And it was still flat. Well, I tested at 8 because I've had it before in mixes before, tried it,
Really?
and I always thought it was kind of bland. I said, well, let's kick it up a notch, just see how it works. And it still had that flat kind of water. The flavor's watered down, not the bite. The bite's there, and the bite at 80% is actually
Yeah.
significant. Um, but it just watered down, kind of boring bourbon flavor. It's like not really exciting, but it is kind of bourbon. I don't get whiskey at this. I get more bourbon, but it's kind of really boring, bottom shelf kind of bourbon, but not like rot gut, not a rot gut, but if you find a mellow brand of a rot gut kind of thing.
It has
Yeah.
glass. It has glass for sure.
Yeah.
Or it's made
It's
of
not
glass.
horrible. It's not horrible. It's just unfortunately for about the same price or the same price, this another one's gonna be better. So
odd that
you
they
can
have.
grab this if you want to. But go ahead. Wait
Like,
a minute,
why would
Sam,
you
you don't
have a
have this one.
regular bourbon and a Kentucky bourbon? Because it's the same fucking thing. Like,
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
different
this is
brand though. They're trying to do some
I get
specific
that, but
brand.
like, if it's bourbon, it's Kentucky bourbon. That's what it is. Like, bourbon originated in Kentucky. It's Kentucky. All bourbon is Kentucky bourbon.
But isn't there different countries that do bourbon different ways, maybe?
No, bourbon is
Okay. I
American
don't know.
whiskey.
bourbon's
I'm
an
sorry,
American
Bourbon
whiskey.
is
TPA.
all. I mean, there's a
I
bourbon
tried TPA.
king in France. Like, that's a French word or something like that. But bourbon whiskey is made in America. aged in oak barrels, all that shit. But it specifically has to be made in America to be like Kentucky bourbon.
I'm with you, BT Cruiser. I'd grab the Kentucky
No matter
over
where
this
it's
and put
made,
it
it's
in.
Kentucky
That sounds
bourbon.
good.
It's just
That sounds
yeah.
good.
So I don't understand why they had different versions
I
there,
don't know
but
why they made. I mean, did this one come out first and then they upgraded to the Kentucky? That'd make sense.
right. And then you
I
guys
don't
just drop like
understand
a
why they
gold
have
bottle
both.
or something. All right. Well,
Yeah.
moving on. FA whiskey is the next one, which I again don't have.
So I like this one. I think FA does, a couple of liquors pretty well. I think this one's pretty good. However, you can be careful with the potency. Uh, I did this one at 2%, if I remember correctly. I would probably recommend starting in the mix around 1 and then kind of working your way up. Around 3, it gets a little bit too alcohol-y, a little bit it's not even that, a little spicy, just too harsh around 3 and has too many spices in there to begin with. However, the body, the authenticity, no off notes, everything's pretty good with this flavor. Um, I gave it an 8 because the other flavors that were going up, I just thought were just a little bit below. Uh, but this one, yeah, I mean, it is pretty hard to work with. That's why I recommend starting low and working the way up. Similar to all FA liquors, honestly, that are good, like the rum and all that. Uh, but I really enjoyed this one as a single flavor. It was very good. This one I felt like would be the best to turn into a honey, that the one that you were talking about, or kind of, I wouldn't say like making a Jack or Coke, but I would say making some kind of specific, like a honey blend, or if you wanted, like that fireball you were talking about, if you wanted to add more of liquor to it, I think this one would be a good one. Um, but yeah, not much else to it. Like I said, just don't start low, work your way up, enjoy the spices, has the little throat in there, giggity. Uh, yeah. Who else has this? Tim, you have this
I
one, I'm
do.
assuming, or
Samantha
Yeah.
does.
who?
This is basic rock gut. This is not your really potent rock gut, but this is your basic rock gut. And I mixed it at 4%. I know. Yeah, was it 4? Yeah, 4%. And I've tried it lower before. I've done a lot of whiskey testing flavors for when Larry and I were on the same show. And yeah, this is basic rock gut. Works well in a mix though. Um, but again, like this is one of those ones you'd want to add like the wonder flavors to give you your top note because this is more just that bite from your whiskey with a core flavor, but it's not like refined in any way. It's kind of spicy bite. Like if you just want to feel like you're actually drinking a drink, that's you get it. But if you want like really higher end or nuanced flavor, this isn't got it. It's kind of a little more on the rock gut side. Not quite as much kick as one of the others we're gonna go over, which we already kind of hit on. So for me, it's not my go-to, but it isn't bad. This would be, I mean, I did give it a 6.5 because it is by itself, it just doesn't do it for me.
So it sounds like it's
And whiskey's my
mostly
drink of choice, by the way. Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
sounds like it's kind of mostly just the alcohol notes.
Yeah, it's mostly the alcohol note with the spiciness to it, kind of spicy bite, but it's generic.
I think it's
Right.
well
Which
balanced.
yeah, and there's another one tonight, which for some reason is at the top of the list
Yeah.
that we'll get
I
into
think
that.
it's I think it's well balanced between the notes, the body, the spices, the alcohol hits. I think it's pretty. You're just missing the ice, honestly. Um,
Yeah, it's just like a really cheap whiskey. That's all.
I also
Rock
think
got
if
low
you're
shelf.
looking for, I think if you're looking for a body out of, I would say this is probably in the top 3 or top 2 for the best body tonight. Giggity. Uh, it's a good
Yeah,
foundation
top
starter.
two,
I would
three.
say
Yeah, I'd
one
agree
of
with you
them.
there. I'd
Because
agree with you
overall
there.
it has a well balanced body. A lot of them kind of lean top or bottom. This one
This is
is
more
kind of,
base.
you get yeah, a good inhale of the spices with the throat hit from the alcohol, and then the exhale has a nice dense body. So I don't know how many innuendos I can say in a paragraph, but I think this is a good,
Well, we can say
often
a lot.
overlooked flavor.
Start
Giggity.
talking about bodies. All right, let's move on. Wonder flavors, aged bourbon cream. Look at that.
This is good.
Flat sevens. So
It's
I think
good, but
I
Oh, it
think
is.
I
It is
think
pretty much
I
flat
think,
7.5. Yeah.
I think Tim should explain something real quick though before we get into it.
Yes. This is not a bourbon. This is a cream aged cream from bourbon, the location. So this one's not real. This is the oddball of the night that we probably really shouldn't have included in
Okay, so
this
where
list.
is Bourbon the location?
Someplace overseas. I don't know. I'm not from there. I don't
Bourbony.
know.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of like
It's
But
in
bourbon
bourbon.
vanilla, or
that's a bourbon.
it's
It's
like
like
a
bourbon.
bourbon
It is.
vanilla.
It's
It's
exactly
a
the same. This
aged
is an
bourbon
aged bourbon
cream,
vanilla. Yeah.
where bourbon in that
Okay.
case might mean it's a cream that's aged in oak barrels. I don't know.
I have
Who
no
knows?
idea.
Anyways, okay,
Uh,
that's out of the way.
Yeah.
Go
Okay.
Danielle.
I mean, that makes sense. I get kind of like a Madagascar kind of vanilla aged cream kind of thing. I think subconsciously I get a little bit of bourbon in there, not a lot to the point where you would scream bourbon, but some in there that's not, familiar to a cream palate. Some kind of spices in there. I like this one. I think, even though the name is a liar, it's good as being an actual bourbon cream. Uh, it is very creamy. I like this one overall. I would like a lot more from the body. It's not as dense as I would hope. It starts out dense and then it kind of dilutes fairly quickly off the palate, and it leaves a little bit lingering on the tongue. Uh, but as a mixer, I think it's very good. This flavor is forgiving and very friendly with other mixes. I've done some weird stuff with this. Uh, that's weird to say. I've done some weird stuff with this flavor, and it's done well. It hasn't gone south. Uh, I like it. I gave it a 7 because like I really didn't think it belonged here. Just I know it has the name, so we have to include it, but it just out of everything tonight when you try this flavor, it's just like what the heck it doesn't blend in with the other flavors. But I think it's a very good cream. Uh I don't get any smokiness or anything uh like that. I don't really it just kind of feels like a unique cream that I've never had. It's like some that VTA made or some from another country. Well, obviously Canada. So like it's one of those things. Like it's good, but I just have no clue what it is in real world. But what do you think? Uh, it's weird, Tim. I almost said Linda.
No, but yeah,
Go ahead, Tim.
yeah. This is it's weird because there is actually a bourbon cream. It is a thing, but this is not the one. This has not got the alcohol notes to it. You can tell more by the flavor and the way that's been tested in the past. It's not, I mean, the alcohol notes, I think most of the people get it in their brain that they think it's a bourbon, so they think it, but
Yeah.
it's not really there. It's just a nice, interestingly different version of a cream. Not sure if they came up with the name first or someone tested it and said, hey, this is like kind of like that. So let's go with it, kind of thing. But yeah, it's a nice cream. It's a really nice cream. I just don't get any bourbon out of it at all. I just get a nice light vanilla cream in there. But it's got good body to it, and it's got some good mouthfeel to the cream, which is nice. Um, yeah, 7 for me as well. It's good, but this is the oddball of the night, which I was surprised everybody kept in. I don't think anybody realized until I mentioned Sam tonight. He's like, "Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. I
and I
mean,
mean,
alcohol."
It's
But
in
go
the
ahead, Sam.
name. It's in the
we
name.
didn't
You
we
got to
didn't
do it.
throw Madagascar bourbon vanilla into here because we all know it's not a
It's
bourbon
yeah, and
flavor.
that's the same general
And
idea as
so
this. Yeah.
I don't think we really
Well,
I
that's
didn't
where
think
the
we really
bourbon vanilla
realized.
comes from. It's bourbon. The
I
same,
But
mean,
it's
same
the
thing.
name.
when
Pavora
I
caramel.
tested it, I wrote down really, really, really soft whiskey notes. But I mean, it could be this kind of spiced, kind of oaky
Could be in your head.
perception in my head thing with a really nice, you know, not super vanilla cream to it. But it's
Yeah, real
not.
mild
Yeah,
vanilla.
it's a really nice cream. It's not very hardcore vanilla though. I think
Mm-mm.
there's
Mild.
especially compared to the other one that's quite a bit vanilla in it.
Mm.
This one it's kind of just it's like Flavora cream, but some like there's that kind of like aged spice
It
vibe to
is
it.
it is a lot like Flavora cream. It
We're
is
in the
very
sense of it like being
in
just
that
a plain
line, that
cream.
vein. That
right?
vein
Or
of
like a
cream.
sweet cream, or like or just kind of
Yeah,
like a
this is
straight cream. Um,
this does remind me a lot of an
good mouthfeel,
Flora.
but
That's
I'd say definitely let this one steep. It's not that impressive off the shake.
mm-mm.
But it can, like, after a week, it can definitely add some creaminess and complexity to your recipe for sure.
It's a really good flavor.
Yeah, it's a great flavor. It's just not a bourbon or yeah,
And in a
not really
cream
that. I
episode,
mean, it's not really an oaky cream either. It's not like it was a cream aged in oak barrels or anything. But and I don't
what's
know how
funny
much.
is this probably would have ranked better on a cream episode, but
And people in chat have real. I know Real Flavors has an aged bourbon cream. None of us have that one, and I don't remember if Fidalgo has that one or not. Fiddy, do you have it? But I know that one is very well rated.
that's the one with the alcohol note in it, right? That is the
That's what I
actual
don't remember. I don't know if
bourbon.
that one actually tastes like bourbon and cream or not.
We get confused with these because some of them can be named the same thing, but it really depends on what the manufacturer wanted it to be.
Right.
Yeah.
But
It's
where'd Daniel go? To go poop?
possibly.
Well, let's move on. Nom's whiskey cream is the next flavoring.
We're moving on without Danny.
Daniel.
Yeah, Mom's whiskey cream. See, this is another one that I know can tell you ahead of time would have ranked higher on a cream episode. Just because we're going whiskeys, and there's a reason why it doesn't. And I'll get into it once my turn. There's a reason why I couldn't rank it as high as I
Go
wanted
ahead.
to. All right, I'll go then. So the Nom's whiskey cream is a beautiful blend of whiskey and cream. I really like this flavor, and it does have some bite to it. The problem is you can't use this as a non-whiskey cream. It really, you can't, you're not gonna get rid of the whiskey notes. You're not gonna get rid of the creamy notes. You're stuck there, which in a bourbon whiskey episode, I find that as a kind of a negative. So I didn't go higher, and it's only because of that reason. That's why it's only 7.5, because of the fact that it's limited. You're limited to stuck with that. You can't like balance it differently. You can't add, you'd have to add different whiskeys or add different creams. And I don't know how well it'll react to that yet. So I can't really say, and I don't dare rank it higher and find out later it doesn't mix with any other bourbon. It doesn't mix well with any other cream. Some creams. I know it mixes well with some creams. I know Steve-O, you often in chat, and he's mixed quite a few with it. Cassie's mixed quite a few with it. I've mixed quite a few with it. This is a great mixing for if you want a bourbon cream, like you want that little pop in your. But yeah, so
if you want some nuance to your cream, if you don't want just straight, like I've done a recipe too. Sorry, Daniel, you're going last on this one. Where it was like a raspberry custard, and I threw whiskey cream in there with
beautiful.
it, and it was so good. It just adds like it does taste like an aged. There's a nice whiskey, and more of a whiskey, not much of like too much on the oak barrel smokiness, but a good alcohol whiskey note with a really nice cream. But I'm testing this again. I get some ethyl maltol off, like some burnt sugar notes from it.
In the single flavor testing, yes. In the mixing,
delicious.
I don't taste it. I don't taste it.
No, and I didn't
still
even
in
the
there.
last time I did it, I didn't get it either. What?
It's still in there. So I think I've worked with this since the episode, a lot of the Noms flavors, which are really good. And it can have, I think it doesn't have a ton of EM. We're not talking about Flavor West
No,
EM.
just like some burnt sugar notes that
I think like 0.25. So
Yeah.
it can have maybe mutant properties. I haven't seen it, but I know it has kind of smoothed out other flavors a little roughness and kind of softened them up. This is a really good additive.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the best whiskey cream you can start with. I think it's 60% cream, 40% whiskey. It has just the right amount of whiskey you want from it, but the cream in it that mixing with it versus single flavor test has been fantastic. Nothing that I think is worth sharing, but just it came out good, and then I got to work on it more and never will finish type deal. But it's good. I think I think what the reason why I gave it a 7 is the body. Like I said, it's just an additive, but it's a really good additive. And I think
that was my
it's
problem tonight.
I think I gave it. I think it was just a little soft.
and it's not adjusted.
Yeah. It's. I mean, it's a little soft in the body. It's creamy, but it's not like super thick. So but it's a good flavor. And I think also we're kind of realizing that we're a little too nice to flavor sometimes. And I think 7.5, 7, that's a good flavor. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yes,
It's
it
just
is.
got a couple things.
You won't see a 10 from me unless actually you'll probably
Exactly.
never
And
see a
I've
10 from
I've
me.
I've given a 10 when I probably should have given an 8.5 or a 9, you know. So
And
I've adjusted that and kind of brought my numbers,
If a
you know, to a
flavor
more
seems damn
reasonable
near
there
perfect, it'll
there.
get a 9.5. It'll never get 10 because it could always be a better one. Remember
But
the
yeah,
top double
right.
watermelon situation?
Yeah, yeah.
And then they came out with a better one. It's like crap. Well, how do you
done.
get 10 better than 10? Yeah.
Amphora is a
11.
goat. Amphora is a 10 flavor.
All right.
So I
No
don't
change.
Now,
regret it.
whiskey cream wise, though, this is the best one out there.
I
If
would
you're looking
agree.
for an actual
Unless
whiskey
you
cream.
have
Yeah.
real flavors, and I don't know. Apparently, Apathy says real flavors does have a nice little bit of boozy and some
Oh
smoky
yeah.
smokiness to it, as well as the cream. So I've heard good things
I
about real flavors, but
I have
I was
too.
I was gonna get it for the show, but it was just not worth the investment. But that Real Flavors is better and the better of the ones you can get. And I from my research, it looks like almost a perfect flavor. Uh, Real Flavors is slept on. I wish we could get them more. It's just so hard to source. I'm sorry, y'all, man,
DIY.
but it's expensive.
yeah. All
It
right, moving
is.
on. It is, but this might be one of those ones that is worth getting. I don't know. Fidalgo, please get back in chat and chime in. Apathy said it's a really nice, unique cream, so I believe his
No,
taste
I
on.
think it's worth getting. I think if you're in Canada, you should 100% have this flavor. But if you're outside of Canada and if financially you can get it.
I really like Steve-O's idea,
I
John.
ordered from Canada literally the week before this episode was put up.
I like Steve-O's idea there of putting
It's too
the
expensive. I'm sorry.
Vape
I
Train
love
coffee
Canada, but it's
liqueur
too.
with the whiskey cream.
Well,
That sounds like a really good idea. Fitty, how good is Real Flavors aged bourbon cream, and what are your notes on it? Please drop them in chat because we don't have it.
no, join the
Compare.
stream right now, Fitty.
Yeah, we'll send you a link.
Get in now.
All
It's
right,
your
moving
time.
on. Vape Train bourbon. I don't know why I don't have this one. I tried to get all their liquors, and they must not have had this one at BCF when I got all the liquors.
I had the which one is this Vape Train bourbon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have two. We're in a TPA situation. What did I give this one? A 7 or an 8?
7. 7.
7. So the reason why I gave it a 7 is this is a good flavor, but it's in the same realm as TPA, Kentucky, and regular. However, it's a far superior and closer battle. This is a well spiced, very alcoholic. I don't know what's that word to use, but the burn that you get from the alcohol, the sensation that you get from alcohol, VTA, I don't know what they did, but they mimic it the best.
They do.
Besides one flavor we'll talk about, which is pretty close to them anyways. It's got good body, good top notes, good spices. Don't push this one. I did this one at 2. I would not recommend going too high with this one. It turns into a very spicy off note, dirty nightmare. Uh, but if you work this one low around the 1 to 2 range, it's pretty good in mixes. It's a fairly standard bourbon, so you can kind of take it however you want. I don't get anything that would, lean it towards a honey or anything like that, or a fireball or any specific kind of whiskey that you're trying to do. It just kind of has a generic. I'm assuming it's a something over there that you can get in Aussie land. Maybe they have their own brand. But it's just kind of I don't want to say a generic that's offensive, but just a brand of whiskey I'd never tried. Uh, it's really good. However, I would highly recommend the same way as TPA, I would recommend their Scotch whiskey, but we'll get into that later. We won't go into that now. But this one's good. I think if you just period, if you want alcohol, sounds weird to say that. If you want alcohol flavors, VPA is the
Mm-hmm.
same superior flavors that Flavora is with tobaccos.
Yeah.
Like it's ridiculous how good
Agreed.
they are. I
Yeah.
think if you have any kind of itch, even their freaking tonic water.
It's
Why did
excellent.
I try
Yes,
that? I don't know, but they do everything.
I did it to mix with
And they
gin.
have like the raw sugar. They have anyways, that's a side note. Uh, but this one, even though it is, that a little bit above average, I would recommend it if you're deep diving. If not, get this the other one we'll talk about in the future. Oh, Tim, you have this one. Go ahead. I thought you
Yeah,
didn't have it for a second.
no, I have this one. Yeah, this one here is very much like TFA, and the fact it's a low, smooth, lower shelf like one. But the difference between this and why it gets a higher ranking than the TFA version, they're almost the same, except for this one, like you said, has the bite. This one's 100% that bite. It's there. You know it's there. If you like, if you're going after a true alcohol vape, you need that. You want that bite. This is it. It's going to give it to you. You're going to get that kick to the back of your throat that you're looking for. And that's where it outranks the what did I give TFA? TFA is 6. This one got 7.5 because it's that. But it's still like more like the middle of the bassy part. It needs a little bit of helps if you have other top notes. This is another place where I would, even though the Wonder Flavors didn't rank well, I would add that to this one to kind of give it more of that mm, nuanced little additive to make it a little more high end, better, smoother, like sweetness and your different notes because they're not really there. It's just generic, kind of like light, relaxing, more of smooth bourbon with just a kick to it. What about you, Sam?
Don't have this
Oh,
one.
you don't have this one.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know why don't have this one. So
I was surprised. Okay, so
I think it's one of the. I feel like I have their fucking tonic water for Christ's sake. Like I feel like it's one of the few that I don't have of their liquors because
yeah, I
Daniel's
just realized that I was
vape
looking at
train
the
to
thing and I
booze.
missed it.
Vape train to booze is like Florida tobaccos. Like they really, really nail their alcohol
They
flavorings.
did great, and they have versatility too, because they'll kick it with the nice bite like this one has, and a few others have nice bite. And there's one specifically you can use to add bite to any. And then they
So
have
Tim, this
like,
one's got like those nice smoky notes, oaky notes to it,
yeah,
or
it's kind of mild. That's why I said it add the wonder flavors to give you that, all those little,
okay,
because that's what's kind of missing. It's kind of, yeah, it's there, but it's kind of mellowed
wonder
out.
flavors, or anyways.
Yeah,
The next
there's some
flavoring
others.
is
Yes. Next flavoring is,
TFA
yeah,
Kentucky
Kentucky.
bourbon,
Y'all
regular fucking
crazy.
bourbon.
Y'all crazy. Tim, say something so I can see the scores. I gave this a 9,
See
right?
the scores. See the scores.
Seven,
See the
nine,
scores.
seven, 7.5.
Okay. Listen, I know y'all doing this because of SSA lemon cake, whatever that flavor is.
No,
Because y'all are ridiculous. This isn't the
Nope.
reason why this doesn't get a perfect score is because it's not completely perfect. It doesn't always do what you want. But this is one of my favorite bourbons. It's on the weaker side. I've single flavor tested at 5, but I'm pretty sure you can go all over the board at this. I usually mix in like the
Ooh.
3 range with it though. Uh, it can kind of go a certain way that you don't want it to go. But this is all around good flavor. It's good in so many mixes. This is one of the like when I first started mixing it, there was a couple of weird recipes. Then the ID Senti idiot didn't he do one where he did like kiwi with it or some? There was a couple crazy recipes that I did, and this flavor is amazing at just kind of altering certain recipes and making them unique. I like the body, even though you got to kind of push it a little bit more compared to the other flavors. It doesn't really have. You kind of have it more in a single flavor, but in a mix, you don't get any kind of burn. Like there's no real alcohol hit from it. It does have a little bit of, I would say, like a raspiness, like a throat hit, but it doesn't give you a complete alcohol sensation like VTA does. It's kind of like a step below. I don't know how to explain it. It's just not as rough as VTA's ones. Uh, however, I gave it a 9 because I think this will always be a great flavor and a great mixer. Uh, and I love it. I've never gotten an off note with it. I'm curious to see, with how you guys think of that. Uh, However, I've never pushed in a mix above, I don't even know, but as single flavor, I've never gone above 5, and I didn't feel any need to go more than that, but I also felt like I could push it more and I'd be okay. So I'm curious to hear why you guys didn't give it such a good score, as well as have you guys tried recipes with it? Because I think that's what makes me love the flavor even more is the recipes I've tried with it that I would never make. I think it was a kiwi Kentucky bourbon with something else that
I feel like
ID10 T.
I had that.
I
Isn't
gotta
that
look it up.
not ID10T's recipe, but like the Green Bastard or something?
No, Green Bastard was like kiwi guanabana and guava or something
Okay,
like
but I
that. I
know which
can't
one you're
remember.
talking. I've tried one with kiwi and Kentucky bourbon in it too, and that was a really good recipe. But anyway,
Oh
sorry,
yeah,
Tim.
sorry, I didn't pass it. Go
No, you
ahead,
didn't.
Tim.
So yeah, Kentucky bourbon. In my opinion, the way that these are, you need three to make a perfect one. You just have to. This is the middle for me. This is all the rot gut flavor I want that I can smooth out with certain ones and I can add that bite with another one. That's where this is for me. That's why I didn't get a perfect score because it's just kind of that middle for me. This is almost in every single one I mix because it is that middle and it's really potent where it is. 3 to 4% in a mix for me is good, but I'm also adding others to it. I do like this flavor quite a bit, and it is a solid bourbon. You can, if you just like rot gut and you don't want the bite, just use this. It'll work. It's one of the few that'll actually work on its own, but for me, it's just lacking, kind of. Falls a little short of being like perfect for me because I really like my slightly better bourbons and whiskeys myself, and this doesn't quite hit it perfectly. It hits more like a rot gut off the shelf, a lower shelf, the kind of you just drink because it's cheap. Uh, So that's why I didn't get a
Mhm.
perfect score. It is 7, but it's in almost every time I mix a whiskey. This is in it, unless I'm using like whiskey cream. This is in everyone. So it is a solid. It's a 7, yes, but that's because the highest I gave today at night was an 8. So it's not like it's ranked low. Because I feel like we still could use a full built out previously, not having to add another one. That's why there's plenty of room for growth in my scores tonight. But yet I only had one that was I didn't have any that were below average. They're all good, decent. Like I said, Wonder Flavors is my lowest, and that would I would add that to this, and I would add one of two others in here to get the bite, and then it
Jesus, you're
becomes more.
making it.
What about you,
That
Sam? What, Saint Dan?
I said you're adding a lot of depth there.
But that's just it. I don't want bland okay. I want it to be good.
I think you can do it with two flavors, but I guess
I'm really picky
you
with
could do it
whiskeys
with
and
three.
bourbons. That's my go-to drink. So,
Yeah, me too.
Sam, you have this one, right?
Yeah, it's okay. I like it a little bit better
Uh,
than Wonder Flavors. I gave Wonder Flavors a 6.5. This one I gave a
Mm,
7. I did it at 5%, and it's pretty soft, pretty light, but I am getting more of that like bourbon oaky smokiness from this one. Um, Not a lot of alcohol bite to it.
mm.
Um, that's kind of why I just gave it that kind of middle of the road, or not middle of the road, I guess, but it's still I have it as 7. It still means it's a good flavor. You have it way too high up, Daniel.
no,
There's no body to it. It's very thin. It's again, and it's an accenty flavor, which is fine. And it does
Yeah,
work in
those flavors
recipes.
you get in there are rough, which gives you that kind of rock. The ones that are in there, they're not soft.
I get that.
I think it's
I
got
don't get
the
any like rough or harshness off it or whatever. I just thought it was very comparable to like it's just really soft and not crazy nuanced.
you get
Compared
it
to like
soft. Both of y'all
my
get it
favorite
soft.
bourbon of the night. But
I
what?
get this is like my second, for me personally, this is like probably off the top of my head, second or third best body tonight. Giggity. Uh,
Agreed.
But you guys get a lighter body. I wouldn't
No,
say it's like molasses density, but I would say it's the
no,
same
this is
density
like my
that you would
middle
get from a,
body.
I would say it's like a
This
carbonated
would
drink.
be kind of my body. There's another one that gets some body too that blends well with this one, so it adds even more. And then
No,
I
I just
need the top notes,
see, I
which
just find that's funny. I get a lot more body than you guys out of it, a lot more density. Like you said, I wouldn't say this is top shelf, definitely not. Uh, but I don't get the kind of dilutedness per se that
Of
you
the
guys
ones
get.
I have tonight, there's only two that I would use by themselves and call them a bourbon.
Yes, Coop's Kiwi Bourbon
So,
ID10T.
yeah.
Thank you, BT Cruiser. That's the recipe. That's a good recipe, and it only has the Kentucky
And
bourbon in
Coops
it, and it you can taste it,
wasn't
and it
that
and
was
it
the
works.
recipe that he posted because the guy it
Because
was on
yes,
Reddit. Okay,
yes,
that's why.
yes. That's why I
That
was
is
thinking Green Bastard, but that's somebody else's recipe.
that is one of the
Posting
best
his recipe.
recipes you can try.
Yeah, Coop's
It's
Kiwi
so
Bourbon is good.
weird but good.
I thought it was a little thin, but it's still good flavoring. Yeah. So, anyways, moving on. What's next?
Flavor.
Flavora
Flavor.
bourbon.
All right.
Wild, wild.
So I guess I could kind of, do my ranking where there's one that, ones that I like better. So I gave this one a 7.5, but this is easily like, you can easily give this an 8, like you guys did. Uh, for me, is one of when I was thinking, and I said 3 or 2, whatever. This is one of the best dense body ones that you can get. It's a darker bourbon. I don't know what's a darker kind of bourbon, but it's kind of got more of a darker taste to it. The alcohol note is kind of weird. uh you get the harshness, but like not the alcohol kind of feeling. It's hard to explain like the other flavor. It doesn't have the full oomph kind of pow of a shot of bourbon, you know what I mean? But the spices are there. It has a beautiful spicy top note, and then the bottom is the bourbon flavor. Uh, there is I get like a little bit of sweetness out of this. It's not like EM or anything. I don't know what it is exactly, but it is a little bit sweeter than your average bourbon. Uh, it kind of feels to me like an exquisite, I wouldn't say top shelf, but like the bottle is definitely classy as fuck, like it's probably
It's
handmade
a
by
it's
a
a celebrity
glassmaker,
brand.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
overpaid for it and it's good, but you're like, dang, this is kind of,
You paid for
why is it
the
so expensive?
name of the rock on it or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Uh, it's got a
That's
little bit of smokiness to it. Out of all the flavors tonight, the only one that gave me a little bit of smokiness was this one, or like an oak barrel kind of feel. It wasn't very noticeable. It wasn't like, smoky tobacco kind of deal, but it was a little light kind of at the tail end of the exhale. Uh, I love this one. I haven't worked with it, which pisses me off because I've had this flavor for years now, and I just never that's the problem when you have like 2,000 flavors, but I just never got around to it, but it's really good. I gave it a 7.5 because there's other flavors that you guys don't have that I think are better, even though it's different. We'll talk about that. But I
one.
think logically looking back, it's an 8 is a perfect score for this flavor. I would say overall, not having a weird name, not having stuff mixed with it,
Even though
this
you
is
gave it a seven
probably
and
number two or three. Well,
a half.
I looking back, I gave it the reason why is because we'll see the 8 flavor later. I like to do like 7.5, make sure my 1, 2, 3, you know. But yeah. Oh yeah,
City, we don't
Tim.
have
Sorry.
real flavors. That's why I said drop your notes in
Yeah.
chat if you got them. We don't
See,
We're
have
this
them.
not
is a
Canadian
this one's a funny one for me
ish.
because it did get the highest ranking for a single flavor because it actually for me it's like a sweeter version of a bourbon. It's a little sweet, like you were saying, Daniel, but it's got the most full flavor to use by itself solely. Now, it's not even in my favorite bourbon trifecta, or it's not even in my favorite trifecta of these at all. But which is weird because it's better by itself. But if I'm going to use just one single one, it's going to be this or TFA. And TFA is going to give me more of that like rock gut flavor for me versus this is like you said, it's almost like an oversweetened version that someone slapped their name on and gave it a fancy bottle. I think that's a pretty good, accurate feeling for this. It's a decent bourbon, but it's like they made it a little extra sweet so that it's more palatable for people that don't really love a true smooth bourbon, like a with a little bit of a little, all those uh real alcohol notes in it, and it doesn't have much of a bite at all. It's just a little bit, very little bite. So it's all right. It's good. It's my favorite for mixing solo, but I will grab the trifecta, which I'll go over after we're all done. Which one? I already have it up. Um, what about you, Sam? Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah, you have this one.
Okay.
You have Flavora.
I tested it at 2%.
Um,
It is definitely an accenty flavor. And light as a single flavor, but it sticks to your recipes. I know people that can't do this over 0.5%. And I'm like, okay, it depends on the recipe for me. I can do 1.5, 2 pretty easily, depending on how much I want that bourbon note to come out. But you do get this really nice, smoky, oaky, kind of boozy, combo, balance of a vape. And I think they are quite balanced a little nicely. I'd want a little this does the oak barrel pretty nice. I have also paired this and pushed the oak barrel. I paired this and pushed the whiskey. But this one is pretty much always going to be my first grab, and then I will work with it. I'll add to it, or I'll use it as the only smoky, or woodsy bourbon kind of alcohol note that goes in there, because I do get alcohol and I do get the actual the whiskey. I get the whiskey and I get the oak barrel out of this, which I want, because if you've ever had, I swear to God, if you've ever had something else that's been aged in like whiskey barrels, like it tastes like that smoky oak barrel. Like that's a pretty distinct taste, and this brings that for me. So this one, I think for me, I gave it an 8 because it is the closest to like a real bourbon fully.
Yeah,
Like it's got the
same.
alcohol, it's got the smoky barrel notes, it's got the spice notes, it's got everything. It's not just just the alcohol or just the smoky or whatever. This one brings it, and it's got a good range of percentage, good enough for something that you probably want to keep at 2 or less. But
It
I
has
mean,
two
if you
complaints for me. The sweetness is a little high,
there
and
is
it
a bit,
doesn't have
yes,
enough of and doesn't have enough of the bite. Those are
yeah,
the two biggest complaints with it.
and I get that, and it is a little bit sweet. I almost thought there was chocolate in this when I vaped it at 2%,
You
but
and chocolate.
I know. I
Tastes
think that
chocolate
was
everything,
no. I
man.
changed my coils and didn't get that. I just got some sweetness to it, but I think that was my caramel vanilla vape from before that was coming through, and I was like, "Is that vanilla chocolate? What the fuck is that?" Anyways, um, but yeah, I like this one a lot. I do want to say that there are ways to add that oak barrel note to your vapes without
Hmm.
grabbing for this flavoring. Again, Flavora has an oak barrel, Vape Train has an oak barrel, or whatever. Their
Peppy,
Vape Train oak barrel, Flavora's is oak wood,
Someone
or
else just
FA
came
oak
out with a new one.
wood,
wood spice.
wood spice. It's more sandalwood than it is like charred oak barrel. But oak barrel VTA, Flavora oak wood, I believe is what it's called, and then or FA
F-
oak wood and
FE
Flavora.
has one that's kind of cool.
FE oak milk is not
Yeah,
the same thing though. It's not a woodsy. It's more like that's more like
I
uh
get woody from it, a little woodiness from it.
FA TPA has a red oak.
Yep, TPA. We have a wood episode on Old Noted where we go
Yeah,
over those. Like a wood, there's literally a wood episode of Old Noted, and that's
Isn't
what
that
it
I
is. It's
mean,
that's
it's all the
honestly,
oak
that's us?
and pine
DSO
flavoring.
actually their
Mostly.
that oak barrel is pretty good too.
Yeah, so that's a way to definitely add those notes. Yeah, oak milk is like yoo-hoo for me. It's not quite chocolate, but it's like
You?
it's
It's
not
gritty.
chocolate, but
It's
it's like a
gritty.
nice, thick, creamy. It's like a Devon cream almost.
I get a woody oak milk.
Weird.
That's literally
It
what I
doesn't
get.
taste like
A
it's
woody
not
oak
supposed
barrel.
to taste like tree milk. So there you go. Your brain's tricking you again.
Why are you drinking tree milk?
Yeah, I don't know who's
I've never
drinking
done that.
tree syrup.
It tastes like a
Him.
healthy person.
Don't
What's
worry, Daniel's not done. The rest
All
of
right,
it. Oh
Daniel's
no,
got one more flavor to go over
by
by
himself.
himself, which is Recca Bourbon Cola,
all right?
which apparently is really
So
good.
That's what
yeah,
I'm hearing.
that's why I gave the other one because this one I liked a lot. I try not to use it. I've had it for a while. I single flavor tested for the first time. I did this one at 4. At that percentage, I feel like the max would be 5, and I feel like you could use in a mix 3 to 4. Kind of in the Wonder Flavors range, I feel like. Uh, you get a pretty, I would say it's 60% cola, 40% bourbon. Uh, the bourbon I get is kind of like, a Jack Daniels range, like, a commercialized bourbon. Uh, uh, also has some coolant, not menthol. There's no mint flavor whatsoever, but it does have the typical
Touch of cool.
kind of coolant. It's not as cool as their sparkling line or anytime they have ice or anything like that. It's not that, but it does have a subtle amount, at least for me.
Ooh.
I tend to do 1% or more WS-23 and stuff like that. So I like it cold. So it may be cold to you. I would recommend, this one after a steep. It still had the coldness in there, but it was a lot more well blended, I think, for my palate at least. So I'm assuming, with the proper steep, this will kind of mellow out on the cold part. Uh, but I enjoy it because it it's it's lacking a little bit of base. It kind of fades away quick, but I think it's a perfect base to make a bourbon and cola, and then kind of maybe add more cola, uh, or add more bourbon, whatever you prefer. Like I said, it's at the 60-40 range. It's kind of like a double shot with cola. So it's a little bit on the, uh, uh, even range. So it's a little bit more, usually when you do it, you do like one shot, I guess, would be the normal amount. So it's a little bit stronger than your normal Jack and Coke. But for what it is, and I feel like you can kind of take it either way. It does have a little bit of sweetness. That's why I think like Jack Daniels, but overall, I love it. I really like the cool out chilling effect. Like I said, it's kind of for me, it's subtle, so just use discretion. Uh, but I enjoy it because it was just kind of refreshing, especially for all of us on the East Coast, probably the whole America or Americas. Uh, it's been hot, so testing this one
Mhm.
was very, very nice. Maybe that's part of why
Part of why I went so
it was kind
high.
of.
Yeah,
Oh,
makes
no,
sense.
like why it was subtle to me, because like I'm, it will take a lot to thaw me out, or not the well, whatever. But I enjoyed this one. It's very hard to source, but I recommend when you do find a place that has Recca, I recommend getting a couple of them if you like their WS-23. If you like coolant, their sparkling line is fantastic. They have like grape, apple, mango. They're all really good. And they have a lot of unique flavors. Uh, I do research on a couple of them, but there's a lot of good flavors that, at least 10 to 20 off the top of my head that I need to get. Uh, so I would recommend don't be afraid of them. I think they're Indonesian or Malaysian. I always get it mixed up, or Philippines. I don't know where they are, but they're somewhere in the Southwest. Uh, but they make some fantastic flavors, and a lot of them are
Hmm.
disposable. So it is. I know this is very, risque to say. A lot of people don't like disposables, but a lot of people are coming off of them and through DIY, and this is a really good brand to help you get off of that because they make a lot of things that are similar. And I also think the sweetness that they use is, excuse my pronunciation, but neotame or whatever you say. I'm pretty sure
Neotame.
they use that a lot because
Neotame.
their sweetness is really good, but it doesn't gunk up your coils. But anyways, I'm not paid by them. This hasn't been an infomercial. What's next?
Do you did you ever do Hooked on Phonics as a kid?
Probably. I was
Neotame? Like, come on.
neotame.
Neotame?
I didn't know what it was, how to say it. I've never heard someone say it. I've only seen it
Don't forget
spelled.
to refill your tank of Piro Pene for your grill.
Well, I didn't
Gasoline.
know.
Gasoline.
I thought it was like a foreign name. I didn't think it would be correct for like
No,
English
it's like a
pronunciation.
chemical name. It's neotame. Propane, neotame is the.
Of course, you would know
Anyway,
that.
Scotch whiskey vape
Chemical.
tray.
You guys got it. I don't have this one.
Is this
Again, it's
number
only
one?
Daniel
Oh yeah,
skewed
because you
the
made it that way.
score because it's number one. Yes.
Oh, so it's just me
Flavora
talking.
No,
probably
Sam's
should have
got
been
it
number
too.
one.
Sam's got it too.
I have it too.
So for me, this is the best one you can get. Uh, I, I don't know how if Tim would like the body on this one, but to me, this is the all around, the best you can get. Still, uh, it has all the spices, all the flavor, uh, all the top notes and bottom notes, well rounded, as well as it's got the perfect kind of alcohol hit to it, where it feels like an authentic Scotch whiskey experience. Uh, I enjoy this one a lot. It's very smooth, even though it has that alcohol vibe. It's very smooth, so don't kind of be afraid by it. I would recommend, wait in a couple days. I would say after three, it might be harsh for you, but after 3 days, it starts to settle and settles more as it goes. But I gave it a 9 because I don't think you can have a better one tonight. Rekka did good, but that's not a full blown. I would say, Favora would probably be the second and easier to get than this. And, you know, but if you can get this one, uh, this is probably the what you're looking for. If you're missing the body, it has it. If you're missing the top notes and spices of a Scotch whiskey or bourbon or anything, it has all those spices that you want there. Uh, it it has some sweetness, but
Is it a
I
smooth
wouldn't say
scotch or a rough scotch? Because I've had both for real.
smooth. It's smooth, very smooth, but you have to, like I said, it's going to be harsh, at least for my palate. I don't want to say for everyone, but it's going to be harsh for the first, I would say, three days. But after that is where it starts being smooth. Uh, it doesn't have it has that burn and that kick, but it's a solid whiskey. Uh, I think this meets all the criteria of what you would want. I don't think you have to add to this. I think you can if you want. I don't know why. I think this at 1 to 2% is pretty much all you need. Uh, besides filling out the rest of your recipe. Uh,
I tried sourcing this and I just couldn't
I,
get it.
it's very hard to source. And I got this long ago. We were talking about earlier. I got it, 2020, 2021. So
Watch me
I don't
looking
even
at me
remember
either.
where I got it. Um, I'm pretty sure, uh, you can get this
No,
at certain places in UK, if you know what I mean, when it's in stock. But where I
it
got it,
hasn't
the
been in
Bulls
stock
used
in
to
over
run.
6 months.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I got it
All
so
right.
long ago. It was with the Bulls and all that. Oh yeah, Sam, you have this,
Yeah,
and
Sam
you're
has this.
incorrect
All
again. So
right.
go ahead. Go ahead
Uh,
with your
so I
Russian
did
scoring.
4% on this as a single flavor.
What? Why?
What'd you do?
How was it? I did two. I don't.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think you need.
It's
Okay,
extremely
go
soft as a
go.
single flavor. I will tell you, even at 4%. I think two is fine. I think you don't really need it. You could, depending, I guess, on what you're mixing with it. But I've used it at like 1.5 in a mix, and it definitely helps the other. I like pairing it with Flavora bourbon because it makes it a little bit stronger. But it's just straight alcohol notes essentially. I don't get a harshness off of it. Somebody might. I'm not one to talk to about harsh notes.
No.
I'm really not. But I don't get any. It's just whiskey. It's just straight like clear whiskey essentially. I mean, or it's aged, but the oaky, smoky notes are just they're not there essentially. It tastes like whiskey still, right? It doesn't taste
Yeah,
like vodka. It doesn't taste like rum. It tastes like whiskey,
Well,
but
Scotch
you're
is
right.
yeah.
it doesn't
There's no
taste like
wood.
bourbon.
Scotch is a whiskey.
Yeah,
So
it doesn't taste like bourbon. I don't the peaty, a lot of Scotch whiskey is a little bit more peaty. Um, I believe, right? That peated BT saying if it has peated flavors, that's not a good thing. But I'm pretty sure that's one of the things that people, if they don't like Scotch whiskeys over bourbons, that's why it's because it's too peaty. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos, so that's what I remember hearing. Anyways, it might have a smidge to it that makes it read like whiskey, but it really is just a clear, unaged kind of spirit It mixes well with other bourbons to bring out more of the alcohol notes. I don't get any harsh or offensive notes off of it. It's just definitely an accent flavoring. It's not a single flavoring, but it is very accurate. And um I think maybe this, I don't know if this, I wouldn't, it sound from the sounds of it, I wouldn't pair this with Vape Train bourbon. I would pair this with either Flavora bourbon or just throw an oak barrel at it or something. But
Yeah,
I do think
it's
Flavora
missing the wood.
bourbon, yeah, it's missing that oaky, woody smokiness. But I think adding Flavora to it also, there's a little bit of alcohol notes in Flavora. So you're really just kind of boosting that with the Vape Train. So that's my that's my combo there if I'm just doing two of them together. But yeah, it's just for straight up fucking, whiskey. Yeah, it's got the alcohol notes that you're looking for in a lot of other ones that don't really have it. So that's why I gave it 7.5 because it's missing all that other nuance and stuff. It's just straight alcohol pretty much, but it is very accurate and it, like I said,
So
it
do
doesn't.
you get a smooth or do you get a little rough?
No, I think it
Smooth.
tastes like alcohol. So I can't sip alcohol straight. It's all rough.
Huh.
You know what I mean? But it doesn't hurt my throat as I vape it. So that's what I mean. Like it tastes
It's
like straight
smooth.
alcohol, but it doesn't. It's not like I'm taking a shot while I vape it. I'm not a big. If I'm sipping on a liquor, it's a liqueur. Like
Oh, you fancy.
been sugared down with a lot of.
You fancy, Mr. Irish coffee.
And I can't post the link to it, but I did mention it in there. Mandalorian's Jim Beam recipe using bourbon for Wonder Flavors, bourbon VTA, and Kentucky bourbon is my favorite trifecta. I love it.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's excellent. Fortunately, I was the first person to ever try it because he had me test it for him when he was trying it out, and he thought he was going for JD, but I'm like, no, this is more of a Jim Beam, and he realized it and he went with it. He just changed the name. So
Doesn't VSO have?
yeah. Oh crap, we didn't even go over that one. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good bourbon. It's not bad at all.
Go ahead and talk
Has
about it.
is
I
it,
don't have it. It wasn't even on the list.
it wasn't on the list. I don't know why. None of us saw it. It's actually comes more along the lines of some actually it doesn't have
I'm
a ton of
gonna,
body. It comes somewhere in the same neighborhood as the Wonder Flavors,
yeah,
where it's got all it's got
Yeah.
the nuances and all the flavor to it, but it's not got the biter body.
It's more woody too
Yeah, it's more
than
woody. You get
Wonder
It's
more of the
Flavor.
oak barrel.
it's extremely soft. I wasn't a big fan of many of his alcohols. I really wanted him to do them in raw. He had issues with that. I don't know if he's been able to fix those issues
I
or not.
don't know if he came up with the raw.
I
I can't
I
say
was
anything else,
I
but I won't
would
say if he
after I
did.
tried the his alcohols, even his rum and his like triple sec and stuff. They were very light and there wasn't a whole lot going on with them that made me want to grab them again. But if he did a raw
Yes, it is
version
in
of it,
raw. It is in
okay,
raw.
I'd be very
I
interested.
think in a
try
raw,
that.
it would probably be good because that's exactly the same problem. It's a little on the lighter side, but the flavor was there.
It's
The
that
flavor was there.
general that standard kind of older, wispy LaCroix soft, extremely soft, wonderful
Somewhere between
so
Mullenberry
issue.
and Kentucky
But
bourbon too, because it has a little bite, that rock gut bite too.
but yeah, I mean shit, somebody I'm not gonna go out and buy it, but the raw is definitely one that like if you're interested, I'd
Mhm.
suggest trying it if you're interested,
Yeah.
but I'm not gonna go out and get it. But all right. Well, that's it for the night. We are missing quite a few. Sounds like, Inawera is kind of a generic
Yeah, the
brown
Inawera one
whiskey,
I couldn't
note, and then
would have had to source
um,
direct, I think.
some
But I
other
didn't.
random ones, obviously, that we don't want to get. But let's go ahead and do
Top
our
comments?
top comments of the week. So this is
Wait,
from
wait a minute,
last
read the
week's
joke
thread.
first.
Huh?
Read the joke first.
Yeah, so
I
this
haven't
is
heard
from
it.
last week's thread. Sparky, your mother and I are shocked at your current behavior until you learn to conduct yourself properly. You're grounded. Where we talked about current.
Yep.
Well, excuse me. Red currants, black currants. So next week's top commenter of the week will be picked from the thread for bourbons, which started at the beginning of the show. So if you want a chance at that, go comment. I went backwards again this week. Whatever. Starting with the FLV commenter of the week.
Yeah, it's backwards depending on where you look at it. It was at top.
QQ More. FA
It's a
Forest
new one, right?
like
It's new.
candy. Oh, there you go. I didn't
Congrats.
realize necessarily either. Congrats, QQ More, on your top comment of the week. Let's do this one next. Rocky, thank you for adding a third comment of the week. We appreciate that. Let's see if it knocks them out. Oh, Luke.
Congrats.
Congrats, Luke. We love
Congrats,
you.
Congrats,
Loopy.
bro.
Oh, what's that? What was that comment? Can we see his comment again?
It
What
was
his
just
comment?
parentheses at parentheses. It was like two boobies, but with an at symbol.
Science.
I mean, you know what I mean? I don't know what it means. Now for the BCF commenter of the week.
And. Which one?
Oh, he got it.
There you
Custer
go.
Particular 898. Haven't tried
Haven't
any.
tried any.
Well, there you
Yeah.
go.
There you go. Now you can.
Congrats to everybody who made our top commenters of the week.
Congrats.
Please, I will reiterate this intensely. Pay attention to your Reddit, especially your chat, because that is how we will let you know that you won commenter of the week. Please. Rocky has been having trouble getting a hold of the people for that. So
There should be a time limit, like if you don't answer in a
yes,
certain amount of time,
or
you
if they
just-
honestly, he's like, he's not going to chase you down. I'm not going to chase you down. So I'll chase you down a little bit more than he will, like apparently. But pay attention to that. Respond, and we'll give you the details on what that entails.
Wait a
so
minute.
make
While
sure
we
you
got the voice of God, what's his favorite?
Kentucky bourbon.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
do you have
Solid
the
flavor.
regular TFA bourbon?
I don't know. I don't think I do.
I remember hearing you. I remember you
it's
talking
just
about it
less.
on a live stream. I couldn't remember if you had it or not. So
Yeah, I think
you like Kentucky over?
I didn't know
Flavora?
they had a regular bourbon until recently.
I got it.
Yeah,
long
I remember
ago.
that. That's what the live was, I believe. And you're like, wait, there's a regular one. I remember hearing it.
Yeah, I think so.
But you like Kentucky over Flavora?
Yeah, I do. I like to me it's more like when you mix with it, it just mixes a little bit better. Flavora bourbon's good, but it's just a little it kind of gets lost a little bit. Where the Kentucky is just like it's like bright. And it's got like the right amount of heat, I think.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's got. I mean, those.
It's like the
two
perfect
that I would
like
use
I mean
alone.
it tastes like fucking like shitty whiskey, like you know what I
Rock
mean?
gut whiskey. Yeah, rock gut bourbon. Yeah, exactly what I
Yeah.
get out of that. Rock gut, bottom shelf rock gut.
Pavlora is a little more fancy.
Yeah,
It's also like a
sweet.
little bit like molassesy, I get.
Hmm.
It's almost like too thick.
Addy, or not Addy, Apathy. If you can check out the DIY or Die Discord, it gets posted in the noted tab every week. That is the DIY _ bleep bleep thread group on Reddit, and then there's a weekly thread that is the flavor of the week thread where you can comment for a top commenter. You should know where it is. It's only been going since Noted started for 20 years. Just kidding. 6 years.
Which one is he talking about? I'm not sure which one he's talking about.
Apathy's just asking where the comments are picked from because he looked
Yeah.
on Reddit and didn't see any posts.
I'll be back.
So
next
what we're
week
doing,
to post them.
Apathy, is we're picking the thread is over when we start the episode. Like we're
New
picking from
thread
the
starts.
previous week's thread. Yes. So that's why it was current theme. Next week we'll be picking from the bourbon, but we'll be talking about whatever next week is. So we kind of adjusted things there. There is. Yeah, it's definitely there.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's definitely there. So
I
I'll be-
like that he
I'll
said
be
that. But he
able-
didn't
I'll
say
try
what
and
it
find it
was.
and send it to you on Facebook.
By the way, Sam, you should already know what next week is.
After the
It's
show.
beginner florals.
Oh, next week's beginner florals. Oh God, that
My
came
week.
up way faster than I thought it was going to. That'll be fun. We have to go over the list and figure out what I'm doing. So beginner florals, hibiscus, cherry blossom, honeysuckle, stuff like that.
I think blackberry blossoms in there, I believe.
Yeah, blossom flavor.
This
Those
is
really sweet, kind of like nice,
The
easy,
milder
soft,
ones, not the
candy
ones that
floral
are super
flavorings.
in your face floral. Sugar orchid. I
Straight up
actually I made
rose,
sure sugar
violet.
orchid for me is
Yeah,
mild. So
yeah. So
yep, cherry
what,
blossom,
Daniel?
hibiscus, honeysuckle,
uh,
sugar orchid,
uh,
blackberry blossom. Yeah.
what was I gonna say about next week I'll be back. I should be back at my house, and so I'll be able to make bit.lys and post the links so people can easily click it and comment. So make sure when you come next week, and next week is a week you want a win, a week you want a week. It's a week you want to win because there's a lot of good florals, and it's a niche flavor group. I love florals, but these
It
are
doesn't matter.
useful florals.
It doesn't
They're
really. It doesn't
useful.
matter. It's changed.
What?
Yeah.
It
What's
doesn't matter
changed?
anymore. It doesn't matter. I
No.
can't really say. Go read the Reddit, but you don't. It's not going to be just to pick from certain
No.
flavorings. It doesn't.
Oh, I know.
It's a
I know what you mean, but I'm
yeah.
saying they can use it
I
for
know.
that.
Yeah. It's gonna be an episode for like good reference episode for sure. Yeah. I get.
There's a
Like
couple
But that's
other
what I
no,
mean.
flowers in there
Like,
too.
yeah. So
no
top commenter,
spoilers.
that BCF top commenter gets whatever now. So
Can
go
we
read
do
the
something
Reddit. I
nice like
can't say
chocolate?
anything.
CJ says.
But yeah, we haven't done chocolate. Have we done chocolate?
No,
I don't.
We have to break that one up. That's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of chocolates. I think we've done some chocolate stuff, but
no.
not chocolate itself.
Let's not do chocolates.
Anyways, chocolate milk episode.
No,
So thank you guys
let's
for
do.
joining us. Hopefully next week Linda is back
Let's,
as well. Let's keep her thoughts and prayers in her life. Things kind of calm down for her and she can come back. Let's hope. It's been a rough week for everybody, especially her. So love you, Linda. We miss you. 2 weeks now. It's not the same without you here. So, but
Hey, Daniel made it, and we didn't know if he was going to make it too. So
yeah,
lucky
exactly. I
me.
thought it was just gonna be
we
me and
didn't
Tim tonight,
tell.
honestly.
We
So
didn't tell anyone what happened. I had. So I would. I. Can we shoot the shit a little?
yeah, go ahead.
Let me switch it.
So yeah, shoot. Put the funny ones up. Make sure we put use of all of Odie's
Wayne's
work.
probably playing music over us talking right now anyway.
Probably.
Well,
I don't
No,
blame
but I
him.
will right now.
my neighbor texted me. Is like, hey,
Are we
your
done?
house had a fire. I'm muted. Your house had a fire. So I thought it was like a joke. Like I thought I was tripping because I was just checking my phone while I'm at work, and I'm like that can't be real. I was like, oh, it's a mistake call, and then I call my landlord, and yeah, it's true. So I get off work and rush home. Luckily, it wasn't too bad. It didn't damage where my part of the house, but there was some like water damage, and I got to look at it in the morning. But it had some smoke smell left, and it was electrical fire in the attic, so I didn't want to run the computer there. So I'm sleeping elsewhere tonight, but I'll be back next week. It should air out by tonight. We already had power within 2 hours after the fire, and just got to air out the house. But yeah, I'll be back. And everything was good. I thought that would have been my second real house fire, and I would have lost everything. And then Sam and I were thinking about think about all the stuff we have, and if we lost all our flavors, having to start all over again. Jeez.
Do you have insurance?
And I'm gonna eat. So there's minimum.
still.
I have renter's insurance. I should be able to get back whatever I've lost, which wasn't too much. I lost a couple of expensive bottles of like cologne, and so I'm probably in a couple $100 down. But it's all stuff that is replaceable. No one was hurt. The structure wasn't damaged, so everything back. I could get back on insurance. I don't really care. I'm just glad that everything's okay. My bed's okay. My couch is okay.
I just was saying, like, losing a chunk of your flavor, my brain would just melt. And the nicotine. I feel like I have like a somewhat cohesive stash in my head, and then if they're gone, I'd be like, well, fuck, I'm never gonna get those exact same flavors back. I just lose fucking.
Daniel, could this have had a little to do with you're having electrical issues with your room?
So that's what freaked me out because, you know, I told him, he's like, hey, it seems like you're overcharging down there. And I'm like, this happened in the middle of the night when I was doing nothing except, you know, charging my phone. And when it happened again, I was charging nothing. So I think it's just kind of old, but it was the attic fan. That was what went bad. So it has nothing to do with the relation to me, which is good, but
Weird.
yeah, I what I did is I stopped using that faulty outlet that keeps making it the short circuit, and I just don't use it anymore, which kind of sucks, you know, but life is life. Like I said, I'm so grateful, you know what I mean, after that, especially rushing home, because there was like 7 to 10 fire trucks. They got the long ladder out to get to the roof. Like, bro, they were going all out. And the neighbor called when they just saw a little bit of smoke, and I don't know how that person was walking at the right time to catch it. It was just perfect time, and everything went. You couldn't ask for a more perfect house fire. You know what I mean? But I hope
scary.
everyone's okay. Yeah, my first one was worse because I actually had to run through the fire to save 2 of my mom's pets. So I almost
Jesus.
died that night. But this time was much easier because I wasn't there, which was good. But it's just way too smoky, and I'm not going to risk that for my daughter and myself. So it is what it is.
People are saying they wouldn't start
that
over.
was crazy.
I would love to start over. I have so many flavorings that I never use.
Like to a point, yeah. And I'd be like, okay, well, I guess I'm not rebuying a bunch of these shit flavors.
Financially,
Yeah.
no.
You know, I don't know.
I'd have like
Be so brain melted and,
1/16
like,
of my library.
defeat
But I mean, it would be like thousands and thousands of dollars.
That's what I'm saying. Like what we have, it has. Geez, it's too much.
2,000 flavors at an average of $3 a flavor. Look at that. That's $6,000 right there. You know what I
Plus
mean?
base, plus
That's an
I've-
average.
stuff.
I've
know,
gotten bought like
That's-
$8,000 worth of office stuff in the past. Like,
Oh my god! I mean,
You're-
my office alone.
I don't want
yeah.
that to happen.
Yeah, dude, your fucking shelves and shit, Wayne. Like, I mean, just on top of
Like
everything.
all my
Cameras
cameras,
and
like
your-
all the
your mics,
cables, the
every- yeah,
monitors, all the
computer in
mics,
general,
the
God.
lenses.
You know, Philadelphia does.
And
get
all my
rid-
shit, all that shit's here next to all my mixing stuff. So it's the same. If the one room went up, it'd be gone. I'd be out. I'd be like, sorry guys, I'm fucking buying my vapes.
Wayne, you should protect that crap. You live in Philadelphia. Just cover everything in cream cheese weekly.
Yeah. I got robbed. I don't know if you guys remember. I got robbed back in the
I
I
day.
remember
remember
that,
that. Yep. Yeah.
It is.
And after that, I was like, this
Nail
is
polish.
never. I mean, having the renter's insurance was nice. I will say that. 'cause
I've got
I mean,
security cameras around the house for the same reason. We were robbed.
But
yeah, I didn't have any of that until after.
all right,
I can see
y'all.
it from here.
All right, guys. Bye.
Next week, beginner florals. We love you. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.
Drink water and call your loved ones.
Yeah.
Also, eat a lot of cheese. Just because.